When people think of third-party grammar and spelling and writing suggestion tools, they generally think of Grammarly. It has done very well for itself. It basically defined the market. And if recent funding announcements are anything to go by, it's doing very well. But as always, when that renewal comes up every month, every year, you always think, maybe there's some other options available. Maybe I don't need something like Grammarly anymore. Maybe there's something better out there for me. And in this video, that is what I'm going to take a look at. I am Chinchilla. If you like what you see here, you can find more about me at chrischinchilla.com. And of course, if you enjoy the video, subscribe, leave a comment, support the channel any way you can. Before going any further, I should probably quickly explain what I mean by one of these tools, because in this new wave of AI tools, there's a lot of other options. You can just get text suggestions and corrections in ChatGPT, for example. But I want to look specifically at those that run. I want to look specifically at those that run application or operating system wide and offer suggestions as you write. I think if you've ever used Grammarly Desktop, you kind of know what I mean. But of course, there are now many of these tools built into specific applications and web pages and services. So things have got a little muddy recently, but I'm looking specifically at those that run across everything as much as possible. Before I go any further, I really should look at Grammarly. So we use Grammarly Premium. I sort of don't want to like it, but I kind of do. And actually, they have a big office here in Berlin, and I went to one of their tech meetups where they explained some of the process behind how they build the applications, and I got a lot more respect for the native applications, actually. They're a little heavy, but they do actually work quite well, and they really do work almost everywhere. A few applications aside, it's mostly the application's fault, really. One of my main issues with Grammarly in itself is this. So you can only change this overall. And what I'd really like to be able to do is change it at a document level. There we go. There is an unofficial VS Code extension that uses the API that let you do that, but that is unofficial, so it doesn't always work. There we go. And we have some other sort of settings that you can dig into here. Not quite the same way that I'm used to, but these are mostly around preferences for certain things. And yeah, most of them are enabled by default by the looks of it. There's only one disabled. And some other sort of not completely related to language settings, but Grammarly is technically a Ukrainian company, so it sort of makes sense. And then it's just very general settings like this. There isn't much finesse, basically. And here is the same setting. You cannot change anything. There is a custom dictionary. You can see we've added a few here. It's also useful to be able to delete some. And that's sort of pretty much it, really. There's a lot of AI settings. I don't really use them very much. I find them a little heavy, to be honest with you. Bundles. It's actually a bundle of checks, which is sort of more helpful. Grammarly has been around actually for some time as well. Yeah, we can see just a bunch of different things here. There's not much to it. So on the business side, we have things a little bit more. Not all regards to writing. These are the snippets that were mentioned. Trying to find the style guide. Here we go. So it's actually just replacements again. So any of you who know me know that I actually do I work on an open source grammar style checker sort of thing. It works very differently from a lot of these tools, and this lets you do a lot more. So these are all just replacements, whereas that isn't really what a style guide is. Often there are things like capitalization, but there's more to it than that, and this doesn't really go any deeper than that. And more commercial tools as well, like Acrolinks, will actually let you do things like that. And we can see there's a little bit difference here in terms of organizational dictionaries as well as personal dictionaries. So there's my dictionary and there's the org dictionary. But let's stop that and just carry on. So one of the good things about Grammarly is it does work just about everywhere. So this is Obsidian. This is an Electron application, and it works here. You can see it, and it's fine. I actually don't have any massive issue with it. This sometimes gets in the way. You can kind of move it around. You get sort of overview of the issues. Unlike many of the other tools I look at, it does sort of jump to them. Not in quite the same way. Yeah, it jumps around like that. And then we get to settings again and feedback. But generally speaking, actually, I find it to be relatively useful. I don't think it's always very correct. I actually think that Grammarly has got worse recently in some ways. It's odd. They're actually a company that existed for longer in this space. And since they jumped on the kind of AI train, I actually feel like their stuff's got worse, which is odd. But there we go. You see that there. And it's going to be, unlike other tools I look at later, it's basically the same everywhere, which is kind of good in some way. So this is in Scrivener, pretty much the same. And in Apple Notes, exactly the same again. And if I jump into the browser, it's actually probably where Grammarly starts to fall down a little bit because it works a little differently. Google Docs is complicated. In many of these things, we could see some slightly different options here, but it's mostly the same. You get this little pop-up down here, which is same as in the other applications, but we get this sidebar. It'd be nice to have this sidebar in other places, actually. Other tools I look at in this video do have this. It'd be nice if Grammarly let you have this in other applications too. Maybe it's just the applications I'm trying. But for the most part, it's the same everywhere. There are certain places it does not work. I have not got it to work in VS Code, for example. For the most part, everything is the same. So LanguageTool isn't new. It's actually been around for some time. And this is possibly one of the biggest confusions with it. If you look, there's kind of a lot of different places where you can use it. So for example, LanguageTool is often used by other applications. For example, Ulysses, the spell and grammar checker in that is powered by LanguageTool and a few other services too. But then more recently, they've expanded into the Grammarly style business and started adding support as a Mac app and plugins and things like that. And this is where there's some confusion is because it doesn't work quite the same way as Grammarly, and there's sort of multiple ways you can use it, which I'll attempt to unpack a little bit here. It is a German company, as you can possibly tell from some of their customers here, which is always kind of ironic, but Grammarly is Ukrainian, so there we go. And as you can see here, we have browser add-ons, email add-ons, Office plugins, and apps. And the crossover between these is where things get a little bit confusing. I temporarily paid for premium just to show everything that's possible. And also because in Grammarly, I'm using premium, so it's a fair comparison. But just very quickly here, you can see you get some very basic things for free and then a lot more agreement errors. That kind of thing. Incorrect word combinations, commas, punctuation, standard language, measurement units, repetition, all these sort of things that are pretty common in many of these checkers now. Much more. Personal style guide is where things get more interesting. And you can see that all applications, many more, are available in both versions. Now, okay, this is where things start to get even more confusing because you actually have the online editor, which is also part of this desktop application here. So they're basically the same. And pretty much if an application isn't supported, you come to the editor, which, it's not great, but that's what they recommend. And you can see some of the various settings we have here. Picky mode, not massively clear what that might mean. I'm going to enable it for now. Display language, mother language, interesting. So there's a few settings that are quite different. Language varieties, I'm going to do UK English for now. But so this is one thing that I often find is a problem with Grammarly, is you can only change the variant at a system level. And this is something we'll see how LanguageTool handles it. They do have some open source, not fully open source. Again, they have a lot of products and they're not new. You've possibly encountered them as kind of a Java application in the past. Personal dictionary. You can import them from as CSVs or add new phrases. Let's see what we need. Style guide. Import style guides, again as a CSV. What does adding a rule mean? So this is just replacements, really. Not massively interesting, but let's try one. There we go. And let's say that, for example. That's pretty much it. So that's not really what I'd consider a style guide, but it's a style guide. Access tokens, I will come back to the Obsidian one shortly. And then there is API for other purposes, and then just writing tips. Okay, so let's jump into the actual desktop application. It looks pretty similar here. I think the settings are pretty much identical. Yeah, apart from running at startup, that kind of thing. And this has now pretty much picked up my settings almost instantly, which is useful too. That's good. Now, this might be more confusing because surely I am using this, but I'm actually not. You'll see there's actually 2 of them. Now, why is that? This is more of a macOS issue. I'm not sure if it'll be the same on Windows. So this application is what provides the Safari extension and the editor, as it were. And you can see here, you can also keep or not keep text. So what's this one? This is what you keep seeing here, which is confusing because you think, I've already got it installed. And that is the desktop application, which is different. So let's have a look at that. I told you it's confusing. So this is the Mac application. Display, show widget. Languages, it's pretty much pulled in the same settings, I think. No, they're actually a little bit different from each other. Preferred languages, shortcuts, active applications. So this is where it's interesting. You'll see we have full support, beta, full support. And I'm going to try in Scrivener, drafts, notes, and then some others. So let's begin with the new Mac application. You can see the panel for drafts pops up here, and there's this tiny, tiny little box also down here that shows you it's working. I guess we can move it. Yes, we can move it to a degree. It sort of always floats to the bottom. Maybe we can pop it up to the top. Ah, there we go. So, and that gives you the settings, which is where we just were. And then we have, I'm assuming this is the number of errors it considers and brings this back here. Okay, what I also want to check here is, can I change this on a document or application level? Because this is something that Grammarly you cannot do. So I'm going to change that to British English because this is actually an article for a European magazine. And let's see. So if I just temporarily go to notes, see, that is good. It has retained context for the document. I mean, we can see a whole bunch of errors here. We'll come back to this later. Let's go back to drafts, and it is UK. So that is actually one feature in itself. Okay, so we can see some errors here. It's showing up in the dialog box here, but also we can get the hover over here, see more in LanguageTool. I think that just takes us to the box here, but it's already open, so nothing's changing. But there was also this kind of, I'm not really sure what that is doing exactly. Don't know. It just seems to sort of randomly jump around a little bit. I think it might be more improvements as opposed to errors. We can see between some of these here. So this is giving us different options: standard, formal, okay, and simple. All right. And I guess this will go through each one in the document. Yes. But that box has disappeared. I mean, it is still beta. All right. Let's see what else we can get to. So in numerous instances, that is not really quite the same. But obviously this kind of thing is very opinionated. I don't know if we can now get that. There we go. So simple. As much of the given that a large portion of the information is taken from the internet, often and controversially, it follows the majority of the time. Yeah, that's a little bit wordy, but these things tend to be formal. Majority of the data is carried away, which is controversial in many cases. That's better, simple. A lot of the information in these LLMs comes from scraping, often controversially, the web. This means that most of the time, that's better, actually. That's better. That's why. Yeah. So that's kind of improvement suggestions. Okay. And we can see an as here. 3 successive sentences begin with the same word. Consider rewording. Nothing is actually offering us any advice. Fine, I suppose. This sentence is over 40 words long. I'm not sure where. Does that take me to it? No. So I don't know what sentence. Multilingual compound. Again, I don't know where. Yeah. This is probably one of the main issues. It's, okay, great. Where is it? It's not following along with me. But of course, if I start just going along in the document, I will see it. I kind of want to find something that I can add to a custom dictionary. This will do. So let's add, now that's strange. That won't let me add that to the custom dictionary. That's odd. But this one, it does. Okay, well, let's add it to dictionary. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so there's some issues here. This is drafts, which is in beta. Let's try notes. Again, this is hovering down here. I like the fact it doesn't let you put it anywhere you like, but it at least shows you where it can go, which is kind of nice. We can see that notes is full support. So let's see, maybe in this particular case, this does seem to jump us to the right place, which is good. This is a smaller document. We could simulate it by just making the text really big. So for example, if I come all the way down here, so that does jump around. So it depends a little bit on the application, which is good and bad that they kind of make it work in a more app-sensitive way, but it does also mean there's a lot of inconsistency. So again, this looks pretty much the same. Yeah, there we go. Why not? Yeah, I mean, this was just notes. I don't know if there's any kind of rewrite examples here. It's notes. You don't really have enough to work with, I suppose, but you get the idea there. And finally, we could look at mail. I'm going to switch this to British English again. Let's see. So we get punctuation mistake. Yeah, that's kind of encouraging. I don't really feel like just typing an email here. Let's copy something from somewhere else. So this is going to be a very strange email, but here we go. So we can see the blue lines indicate rewriting, style suggestion. I mean, these are not really correct, I would say, but yeah. Can we get the suggestions here? No. I don't know if it has to be US English, maybe. So we can have a look here. Sentences over 40 words. But again, doesn't really offer much advice. Let's try the custom style guide. Let's see what happens. Yep. Grammar mistake. Yeah, that works. There we go. Let's look at the browser, and we can see in Google Docs here. Now, again, this is confusing because we have the LanguageTool extension up here, which I should assume has all the same settings. It's slightly different wording. But there's also LanguageTool for Google Docs, and it's a little bit confusing because it talks about the setting here for Google Docs, but it is just the browser extension. It sort of makes it seem like it's a separate thing, like maybe a plugin you'd have to enable, but it isn't. I mean, it should all work pretty much the same way. So possible spelling mistake, but no suggestions, which is strange. Now this is cool. So let's pop this open. Yeah, so we have it set to British English here. So this is something I really like about it, which I wish Grammarly did do. So I can see here, I can correct it, or I can say, oh no, shoot, actually I'm in the wrong language. There we go, then that corrected that. So here is actually a company name. So I'm assuming this is the dictionary, so that gets rid of that. Yeah, that's quite nice. I will say the Grammarly extension for Docs is a little bit heavy and crashes a lot. I like the fact you can also see here, it's doing it page by page. And I think this is why the Grammarly one has a tendency to crash a lot, because it tries to do everything at once. Oh yeah, one more thing. So I actually use Obsidian a lot. Now, interestingly, they don't have a plugin. This is probably because it is an Electron application, although Grammarly works in it. But there are other options. So there's a community plugin. Which one is it? This is a fork of this one. Okay. All right. It looks like this is the most up-to-date one. I don't know why they forked it, but there we go. And here is an interesting point that you can see. This is where this was alluded to throughout my testing, but you can run LanguageTool locally. I think I might have had a video about this at some point, but that's not necessarily what I will cover right now. So I think this is what we want. And here's where we get the API key stuff. So let's do that. Okay, standard endpoint. Let's get the various credentials. Doesn't let you change the variants here. I don't know if it's going to be per document. This is the UK one, so I'll keep that in there for now. We'll see what happens. There we go. Okay, cool. Now, there we go. We've got squiggly lines. I think I kind of prefer this. That's sort of what you'd expect, really. It doesn't seem to be any kind of sidebar, unfortunately, in this case. And you don't really get any of the paraphrasing and that kind of thing. But, hey, it's an option. One of the things I quite like about ProWritingAid is this onboarding experience here. Gives me an idea of what I might be able to do with things. So I'm just going to click a few. Strange that some of these are counted as separate, like this is just in the browser, surely. Not quite sure why I need a specific option for it, but there we go. Other. I don't know what other is. I have a lot of others. Okay, let's see if it makes any difference, really. Also, ProWritingAid is designed for different sorts of writer. So, yeah, let's go for that. All right, not a good start. But what I'm interested in finding this desktop application. Here we go, desktop everywhere. That's what we want. Plus the browser, although I don't see a specific Safari extension. So this could be a negative, but I'll download this, set it up, and come back in a moment. So I had to do a lot of the usual permissions things that's expected with these sorts of tools. So again, we have the language choice, British English, General English. So I guess it only works in English. I'll select US for now. Writing style, we have a technical, blocked applications. Okay, that's about it. I'm not seeing much support for Safari, which could be a problem. But let's do the other tests and see how it handles them. So the first thing you see is this pop-up telling you that it's now active. Actually, it's pretty helpful that you see this. So it turns pink if there are suggestions. It's pretty much similar format to all of the others, but it's a little bit clearer in some respects. Click the eye icon to hide, okay. Click the reports. I haven't paid yet. I don't know what's going to happen there. So we can see, this is quite nice so far. Here's the disabling. We should put that to system. I can see the language. Here is a good point to check because this particular document should actually be in British English. So let's see if that affects system-wide or not. What else we got here? This is the hiding underlines. That's actually a nice feature. Some people don't like the underlines. We have get story level feedback, and we have that probably is, run reports on writing style. Okay, let's have a look at the basics first. So, rewrite to avoid because of American institutions. Style guide, open style guide preferences. This already I am quite liking the feel of in some respects. So let's see. Check your preferred style guides. So this is interesting because this is better than some of the other style guides we saw where it was basically just search and replace. This is more level I'm used to when I use technical tools. So passive voice, yes. I don't know what a sticky sentence is, but that's fine. Clutter, I think I would call these weasel words, but that's fine. Formal language, tone of voice, polite language, confident language, business. There's actually a lot of nice options here to try. Let's try out that. And a lot is disabled by default, which is interesting, but there we go. Citations, creativity. Citations is interesting. Define your own style guide. Now that is also quite interesting. Let's see how that works. So this is mostly kind of match and replace things. I guess they have to make it as easy as possible, but that's not bad in some respects. All right, let's leave that for now. We'll come back to some of the other features in a minute. So let's see how that has changed things. Most of the, I don't know what this means. What did that actually do? So this is nice because often you need, especially with something like passive voice, you need an example of how to change it. I mean, other tools obviously do this. So it's a little bit jumping around. I'm not 100% sure what has happened there. What did I rewrite? So apparently nothing. So suggest rephrase. Chinese is only reported. Let's maybe try from here. So now we get the, right, okay. So this is maybe a little unclear. That I don't think it did anything because it's premium and I don't have premium. So much like the other programs, I will get a trial for premium so I can compare fairly and then let's see what happens. But that wasn't made massively clear to begin with. So the pricing, it really encourages you to go for maximum possible. 30 a month or 10 a month if you do it yearly with a 3-day money back guarantee. So that's what I am doing. Or 400 euros forever, which you'd have to be very happy. And you can also see that there's still a few limits, sparks. We'll figure out what that means in a minute. But let's go back to where we were. Okay, so here we go. So what I was trying to do was change this. So let's see if now we can do that. Suggest a rephrase. But it's still a little unstable there. Never mind, we will... That also doesn't work. So I like the tool, but so far, but if it doesn't actually do what I need to do, then that is a little more challenging. Okay, suggest rephrases. I don't know what just happened there. So a little bit unstable, I think, is the main issue. I did not minimize that. That just oddly minimized itself. Now, that is actually not suggesting it's going to do it for me, so that is fine. But I'd really like to get one of these just basic changes to work. I will try with a different tool. Maybe the problem is more something like Obsidian. So I've got the same piece in Drafts here. Let's see if Drafts is a bit more stable. It's a more native application. So firstly, let's check that language setting. So it is British English. So I get the unfortunate impression that it changes at a system level, but we'll see. Okay, all right. So I'm not seeing any suggestions. Yeah, this is a little fiddly. I don't know if you're really picking it up in the video, but I'm finding that it's quite, I have to sort of click around a lot to actually get it to do anything, which is a shame. So yeah, and this seems to be stuck. I may actually try. I shouldn't really want to do this, but let's try. Give it a fair chance. All right. So this should be visible, but I don't see anything in line. I don't know if it's because I've somehow toggled this on and off. Yeah. Okay. Well, it doesn't seem to like drafts. So this is problematic, but nothing ever said it would. But let's try a different application then. I will try one that was definitely on the list, and that is Scrivener. Okay. So there's a lot here. So now we actually have a different feature as well. I think this maybe shows you that it's better supported. Okay. It's not really a story, but sure. They wouldn't to know that. Let's see. Language is still set to British English, unfortunately. So it does look like that system level. So now let's see if we actually get rewriting. It does vanish a lot. There we go. So it would be naive. You may have written this incorrectly. Okay. So let's correct it. Okay, that worked. So it does seem to be a little application specific. Suggest rephrases. So again, this is copy. So yeah, I don't know why it was getting the inconsistent behavior in the other applications, but this does not actually reword it. It just gives you a suggestion, which you would then have to copy. And I guess I can now just paste it in. What else have we got? So this is doing the numbers. This is not strictly correct in this situation, but we get the idea. I'm assuming this wants it to be, can you replace this business jargon? See, it's not business jargon, technically speaking, in this article, but I guess I didn't really say it wasn't, but I'm assuming it's going to say this is too long. Yeah, I mean, this is an academic text. So passive voice again, I guess. Let's see if it's shorter. Maybe it will just, yeah, like all of these tools, it really inconsistent. There we go. And there it came up. What else have we got here? Let's try a report. We just run everything. I guess not. Summary. All right. Let's see what this does. Okay. I think that's basically what we could have seen as well. Grammar. Writing style. Okay. Yeah. Sure thing. That's definitely a typo that should just be fixed. Yeah, so it does work in different places. It seems to be the application and the type of rule that is the problem. So this is not, this is correct. So the active dictionary, I'm guessing again, this is going to be a system level, not document level. Let's have a quick look at notes. Same sort of thing again. I don't think anything's going to be massively different. Should just check in Google Docs, but it looks like it doesn't work. So it's everywhere apart from in Safari. Okay, so it's just only a Chrome extension. That's interesting. So that's problematic as well for me personally, and no real comment about the fact that there's other browsers missing. Let's see. So apparently there is a Safari browser extension. Okay, so I'm not very sure if there is a Safari extension or not. Sort of suggests that I don't need one, or that there is one, but things don't work. And to just wrap up the other features that are available, we can see the style guide here, which we saw earlier. There is the dictionary, which I thought would have the word I added, but maybe not. A term base, so custom terminology, also not my word there. And snippets, which is potentially useful, something a little different. Yeah, I kind of have that provided by other tools. And also, should you wish, an actual in-browser editor here with a lot of tools provided. The next one I'm going to look at is Grazie from JetBrains. I have looked at it before in various ways, and it's kind of expanded its reach. It is a Mac app here. I was kind of hoping it might be system-wide, but it isn't. It is just in the browser and also in the JetBrains tools. You can see my previous videos on that because I want this to be more about more general grammar checkers. So, yeah, it's sort of a focus on technical copy, I suppose, but that's okay. It's a little unclear to me what it costs. I have enabled in my account. I've got the settings here, and I don't really see anything telling me I need to pay for anything. So there we go. And we can see the settings here. Use the built-in browser spell checker. You know what that's going to mean, but let's go for it. Text selection, language, just 2 languages. I'm not sure if that is based on my settings. Who knows? Text completion, Grazie chat, blah, blah, blah. Ignore websites. It's quite good. Writing style. Here we go. Here's where we can change the language. I'm assuming this is going to be system-wide. I don't see any way to change this. Check full and contracted. So this fills it in. This aligns with a lot of the settings you get through Grazie in the JetBrains tools that you can toggle on and off. These actually, well, at least last time I looked, were provided by LanguageTool. So there we go. There's a whole bunch. There's a lot. These may or may not mean a tremendous amount to a lot of users. It's sort of showing the audience. And again, we have a custom dictionary. Not sure what we'll add to that right now. Shortcuts. Yeah. There we go. All right. So I think this is only going to work in the browser, unfortunately. Where shall I begin? I feel like I want to start with something simpler because Google Docs is usually a challenge. I have to think what to begin with. Actually, I see a Google Docs icon here, so why not? There is this tiny icon down here. It's a little small. Oh, there we go. Just got a little bit bigger. It'll kind of work the same way, I suppose. Here we go. And again, I may not have picked the best example because it's mostly correct. Maybe I should, let's seeing as I can't actually use any of these other tools, let's just paste them in. There's going to be a lot more mistakes here, hopefully. It's still in progress, as I said before. So this is blue right now. Sure what that means. Correctness, readability, standards, standard bodies. That's not correct. Now, again, we seem to be having that issue where it does not jump to the problem. And it also seems to be page per page. This seems to be something maybe other tools have learned from Grammarly, which can crash quite a lot in Google Docs, and that does it page by page, which I think is fine in some respects. So we can see here, doesn't really tell me what to do, though, is one thing. Incorrect spelling. Let's see, can I jump to it? I cannot jump to it, but I can come here, and this actually is a context pop-up. I sort of want to find something to add to the custom dictionary. What could work? My spelling is better than I thought. I thought that would have come up. I guess it's treated, or even this one. That wants to be hyphenated, I'm assuming. Yeah. Okay, this one will work. There we go. So I'm going to add to dictionary. There we go. So I'm assuming now if we go into the settings, we'll see it in the dictionary. And I could just delete it again. Yeah. Okay. So that kind of works. There's not a tremendous amount to really look at. I don't see masses of the options here. It might be good to try some of these. Let's enable a few more and see what happens. So here's a contraction. So that expands it. I'm trying to see an Oxford comma as I go. That's actually helpful. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so that gets flagged now. Let's go for a different sort of problem. Okay, that just seems to... Now, did you notice that as well? It does say formal writing. Can we change that? Variant is neutral. So I think in general, it's only formal. Yeah. This again connects to its origin, which is mostly a technical writing tool. I think it is designed to be used alongside Grazie in the JetBrains IDEs. So if you're using Confluence or something like that, you can synchronize it with that. But beyond that, if you're already in the ecosystem, it's great. If you're not, then you can sort of get a free, if slightly formal, writing assistant. But it does not work at a system level, unfortunately. I would really love it if it did, because I'd probably pick Grazie if it did, because it kind of reflects how I write more. I understand the settings are in a way I understand, because I kind of come from this technical writing background and I sort of understand what these are relating to. But it's not for everybody. And I think it really is just a companion to that IDE tool. And there we go. I must admit, when I started this video, I thought I would find more options, but I only really found 2 that are mostly equivalent to Grammarly, 2.5 if you include Grazie in that. I don't know if there are others out there. If there are, please let me know in the comments. Hopefully by watching this video, you got an idea of the kind of tool I was looking at to find and where Grammarly fits into that. I think if I had the choice and it fixed some of the issues I found, I would probably go with LanguageTool for a bunch of different reasons, because it kind of bridges that gap between some of the more technical writing I know, but then the more freeform writing I know. But at the moment, it just lacks that application support. So I guess in the meantime, I will stick with Grammarly. That said, I have been working on my own open source option for some time, but actually building one of these tools is relatively complex. So who knows when I will get anywhere with that, but watch this space. I have been Chinchilla. If you enjoyed the video, then please rate, review, share, leave a comment, that kind of thing. And you can find more about me at chrischinchilla.com. Thank you very much for joining me.